Hello, and welcome to another edition of Encores Club. As you can tell by my shirt, we are doing a disco episode today, talking about new music from Kylie Minogue and Sophie Ellis-Bextor. As always, I am one of your hosts, Velvet Rebel, and joining me, the brains and beauty behind this show, Rhonda, founder of Daily Durani, the longest running Duran Duran blog in the world. Rhonda, are you drinking with me today?
I am. I'm having hard cider. Yes. I really should have added more to it.
No, I mean, that's a business project for you as well, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yes. My husband is starting a cider company called Owl Man Cider. And so, yes, right now we're doing some taste testing. So, yes.
Awesome. I've been on a disco binge all this year, from Dua Lipa, Jessie Ware, new music from Kylie. It just seems like disco has made a big resurgence. And I even got the disco ball going here with the lighting today. So I thought, let's do a disco episode. And Rhonda very politely said, all right, I'll put up with your disco fascination. And I just finished a book on Studio 54. So I'm even that much more obsessed. First up is the diva that is Kylie Minogue with her new album, Disco. Here's a little taste of that. You started, nothing can stop it. It's crazy, I'm falling. And that was a little bit of Kylie's new album, Disco. Rhonda, did it make you want to go back to Studio 54?
Since I wasn't there before, sure, I'd go.
No.
That's an interesting thing, though. For me, disco, honestly, I think it started probably right around the time I was about 6. And by the time I was about 8 or 9, it was on its way out. And so I really, honestly and truly know Saturday Night Fever. I know the Bee Gees to some small extent. Of course, I know Nile Rodgers, but that really is because of Duran Duran. And I know Mickey Mouse Disco. So that's really where it all, started for me. So going back and listening to some of the disco, even from back then and now, I have really enjoyed it because now I get it. When I was a kid, I did not understand it. I really believe that disco started and ended with like Saturday Night Fever and a disco ball. And now I'm like, it is amazing to me how much of it really influenced bands that you and I know and love, like Duran Duran.
Totally.
I just didn't have any kind of a grasp on that when I was younger. I mean, how could I? But Kylie was, I love her music. I really love her music. I can't even explain it except for to say that it just reminds me of listening to old Duran Duran. I mean, it really does. I don't think I really had a good understanding of just how disco they were, to start with. Even like old Spandau, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm hearing it. I hear Ultravox. I think of that. I mean, there's a lot that I just didn't grasp. And so I just want to say about her that her music for me is what really drew me in. Her voice, on the other hand, isn't my favorite. I don't know how. I don't mean to be rude about that. It's just that the high voice never appealed to me. I felt the same way about Blondie with certain songs that she sang. I just never got into that. I liked it when it sounded a lot less falsetto, to be honest. That said, her album, it is amazing. It takes you on this full journey, and I started off very, very cynical, and then I found like 2-3 songs in, I'm listening to it and I'm grooving along. I love that song, Real Groove. I must have played that probably 4 or 5 times. What did you think? I'm sure you hated it, right?
I loved it. I went in about when they announced this album. Her last album, Golden, was almost like country pop. And
Yeah.
I spun some of the videos at work and I really got into it. And through some of the people on Twitter that follow both of us and talk, Lou was one especially. There's a lot of Kylie fans out there. And I was like, you know what? This is an artist who I haven't fully engaged with. Obviously, growing up on MTV, Locomotion, but the stock Aikman, Waterman stuff, I mean, regardless of artists, I don't think the production style has aged that well. It's hard for me to go back and listen to that stuff. But then, when she reemerged as a pop star with, Can't Get You Out of My Head and stuff, I mean, those are flawless pop songs. So I was like, you know what? I need to revisit this artist. So I've actually gone back and really dug into those albums deeper than I did at the time, kind of getting ready for disco. And having done that, I can say I think disco is up there with their best albums. I think early 2000s, Light Years Fever, Body Language were three that I love that trifecta. And I find that with a lot of artists, I'll find three albums where they just hit a groove and just knock it out of the park.
Hmm.
And then you go back to like 97, Impossible Princess was very guitar driven, which, Duran Duran was kind of trying to do that with Pop Trash. Kylie does it a lot better. So, I was already very excited about Kylie and was hoping this album would live up to my expectations. And I think it blows me away. You mentioned how you kind of get into a groove with it. I think there is no weak song on it. It just kind of feels like a set. And I mean, there's very subtle touches. I've really gotten into disco recently and kind of gone back and embraced it. Where does the DJ go? There's a nod to in the lyrics to "I Will Survive." Also, "Last Night a DJ Saved My Life" is kind of hinted at there. Monday Blues, there's a slight reference to the hustle on Earth, Wind, and Fire. So there's a lot of kind of touchstones to disco without it actually trying to be overly retro. I think it still sounds like a very modern Kylie pop album, but at the same time, she's capturing the spirit of the 70s, maybe without as much hedonism because a lot of those people didn't make it out of those parties
Sure.
with the drugs and the alcohol and stuff. So it's just a celebration. If anything, this album has put her near the top of my bucket list for artists I want to see in concert.
Oh,
I've seen
interesting.
some of the live stuff, and they just look like absolutely huge parties. So the one song I had a problem with a little bit, and I enjoy it, it's Supernova, just because there's the vocal effects are kind of Britney Spears, Black Eyed Peas-ish, and
Hmm.
that's not the style of pop that I always love.
Right.
But if you're a Britney fan, it's probably right up your alley.
I'm not. So
I'm not.
the, the thing, you know, it's what I really liked about her music is it was reminiscent of what I know disco to be without being a direct copy.
Yeah.
You hit it when you said it's like a modern version of it. It absolutely is, because I think that I wouldn't have had a lot of tolerance for it if it had been, you know, Saturday Night Fever redo, right? I wouldn't have wanted that. Earth, Wind, and Fire. I heard that in her songs. I even heard there were, it, between her and then our next artist that we're going to talk about. I recognized like Laura Branigan. I mean, and she's not really a disco person, but she came at the tail end. And so I heard those qualities like of the songs that I would recognize in there. And that was like, I was like, wow, I had no idea. So, I mean, I guess I'm coming at this very, differently than most Kylie fans, because I don't know her music. I would be lying if I said that I did. I know very, very, very little, precious little. So this was like listening as just a brand new person for me.
Yeah. I'm super excited, like, now that I've kinda gotten into the Kylie catalog to go back
Mhm.
and just keep listening to it, get more excited about it. Like I said, I have to go see her in concert, and if anything, it feels like a bit of vindication. Like, we're always kinda on edge about how people view '80s music, and they think it's
Yeah.
fake and overproduced, and disco got even worse of a bad rap with "Disco Sucks," and a lot of that was kinda like the way the industry was so, like, scared of that community because obviously it was very diverse and it was gay and that was like whoa, this isn't rock and roll. But you go back, those artists were playing their instruments. You look at Chic, some of the tightest musicians to ever come out of music. So in a way, this music kind of resurging and new artists like Dua Lipa making it a big part of their sound kind of vindicates what we all knew, that hey, this is fun music, it's brilliantly produced, it sounds great, let's just enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I agree with you, because it's, Dua Lipa is one of the first people we talked about, like back before we even filmed a single episode of
Yeah.
the Encores Club, and I was struck by her because it's not all just flash in the pan, smoke and mirrors. She's not a put together pop star. She genuinely has talent in a way that I can appreciate. And I think that's how I feel about, this music is like it's real musicians playing. It's not, I like electronics just as much as anybody else, but I appreciate when I can, see and hear someone playing a damn guitar,
Yeah.
or a horn or anything. I love that. So yeah, no, I think I'm going to look into this a lot more. Um, I liked her. I thought it was great. It was a good introduction for me.
And for 80s fans, have you watched Michael Hutchins documentary?
Yes.
All right, and the fact that they were a relationship, I
Yeah.
think that made me more
Yeah.
like
I
her as
mean,
a person too, which instantly made me like her a lot more as a person as well.
I definitely. And I can remember, reading about her. I think that's something that I would like to talk more about, as we listen to the next artist, is more about that, the difference between being an American hearing disco and Britain. I think that there was a definite difference in the way that um the whole style was taken. Totally different between the two countries. So yeah, definitely.
Agreed. And our next artist is Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and her new album, "Songs from the Kitchen Disco." Literally like minutes ago, I just finished on Twitter one of Tim's Twitter listening parties. One of the best parts of the shutdown. She was just on there tweeting away about the new album, so it's right there, fresh in my mind. So I'm excited to talk about this. Here is a little taste of the new album from Sophie Ellis-Bextor.
Crying at the discotheque.
All right, that is one of the big hit songs from Sophie Ellis-Bextor on her new album, "Songs from the Kitchen Disco," which to me is like hearing a totally new artist. Earlier this year, I started seeing her on Instagram with her kitchen discos. Uh, Up there with Tim's listening parties, two of the best parts of this lockdown, the COVID year. Being stuck at home, I just found it completely charming to see her with her family having fun in the kitchen, having these disco parties. So I became a big fan, started getting into her music, and then this album comes out, and it's basically her greatest hits. But I'm going to be honest with you, to me, she's a new artist because over here in the United States, we're just not aware of her. Or maybe it was just me. Rhonda, you've been a big Sophie fan all these years and not told me about it.
I can honestly say that up until a few days ago, I have never heard of her in my life. So I was surprised by her. And this is one of the things I was talking to you about how different, we take disco here in America versus what disco was in the UK. I think it's day and night. I mean, truly, here it was Studio 54, it was cliche, I want to say. I mean, really, disco has become like this whole cliche thing here.
Mm.
And I think it was a lot of that in the 70s as well, unless you were on the inside and going to these clubs. And I think in the UK, um I think it inspired them far more than it ever did here. I mean, it's over there, it wasn't just about the shiny shirts. Yours, is fabulous, but I mean, it wasn't about the shiny shirts or the disco ball or anything like that. I mean, it genuinely like was this whole style of music. It was that electronics was really coming of age. Giorgio Moroder meant way more to them over there than I think they did here. I think chic here, sadly became, a punchline, where over there I'm not so sure it was taken in the same direction. I mean, what do you think?
I would agree. I had to reach out to my friend in England, Robert, who is he was huge in the club scene, still very in touch with that music over there in England. I was like, Sophie Ellis-Bextor, like, what have I missed here? And he's like, oh my god! And he said that there was a big rivalry between her and Posh Spice, and that really cracked me up because obviously the whole Duran Duran Spandau is always a
Yeah.
crack. Always makes me laugh because I'm married to a Spandau fan. We always have those arguments anyway. But when I watch her videos and stuff, Sophie to me is everything Posh Spice aspires to be because the way she delivers her music, the way she presents herself in the videos, I think it's very sophisticated. It's done with a sense of class. It never comes off as crass or trying to use sexuality to sell the music. And I mean, I think Kylie is very good at that as well. And that here in America, when we do have our pop stars, they tend to be very young and it's all about the image. And
Mm.
here with both of these artists, it's all about the music and it's all about the song, all the way going back to her first hit Groove Jet, which I cannot get out of my head.
Oh, it's
Um,
fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. And then the new one, Crying at the Discotheque, which I do my research. It's a cover of a song by Alcazar, which is actually a cover of a 70s disco song called something else. They kind of took the music and recreated it. The video for Alcazar is absolutely insane. But Crying at the Discotheque just felt perfect for 2020. I mean, she shot at some of the clubs in London. She was at the St. Moritz, I believe it is. And that's where the Clash used to play and stuff. So seeing all these empty clubs in England and how much it's affected all these
Sad.
artists, it was cool that she kind of took the time to go to these clubs and kind of keep them on the map. So when we do get out of this lockdown, we can go back to dancing, and
Yeah.
hopefully I can go to a club and hear some Sophie because I just love this album. Um, I'm just surprised. Like I feel like she should have been bigger over here by now.
I don't get it. This is one of those things that I never really quite understand because she's outstanding. I mean, now here's the difference with her. I love her voice
Yes.
so much. I mean, it's just fantastic. She's probably going to be one of my favorite finds of the whole year.
my
Um,
my first note on here, and with all love to Kylie, stronger vocalist than Kylie. I think
mhm.
whereas Kylie's voice can be a little thin and rely on production, Sophie absolutely can sing anything she wants.
Holy cow! Yeah, I loved the album, and I did love all of the disco, but I even loved as you got down further into her stuff. I mean, bittersweet was one of the ones I wrote down. It's full on electro pop in every way. I
Yeah.
when I I'm amazed because when we listened to that, I was like, why in the heck didn't she make it here? I don't get it. I really don't get it. And True Faith, you sent me that text earlier, and I re-listened to that again. And I mean, I liked it when I heard it, but and I knew it was a cover, of course, but it just, I don't know. Listening to it again, I'm really taking the time to stop and listen to it. She is fabulous. I would love to see her. I
Yes.
mean,
Can we get those two?
amazing.
Can we get Kylie and her on a package tour? I mean, like
Oh my
have
god,
them both
that would be so
together, like,
cool.
that would be amazing. I'm a huge New Order fan, obviously even more so with Joy Division, but for me, I actually prefer this cover because it brings
Oh,
emotion
those
to
are
it.
big words.
She brings emotion to the vocal that Bernard doesn't, and Bernard almost always intentionally doesn't. He knows he's not a huge singer or anything like that, and to hear this song brought to life emotionally for
Yeah,
me makes it that much better. So I got really excited by this cover song, and I love
yeah.
cover songs, but rarely do I think they're better. I think maybe they had something different, but in this case, I actually prefer it to the original. And no offense to the New Order fanatics, I am one as well, but respect where respect is due. Sophie has absolutely remade this her own.
I think she just made it, exactly what you said. She made it her own. I mean, I love New Order, and so yeah, I wouldn't say that I love one more than the other. Really, I think I have always liked New Order's version of it because I mean it's theirs,
Yeah.
and also I like the deadpan delivery because that's what it sounds like to me. It's very deadpan. It worked back in the day, and but True Faith is like it's all of the emotion that I've felt all year long. So I'm like, oh yes, I get that too. So I wouldn't say that I like one more than the other. I think they're both fabulous and they have their moment. Maybe that's probably where I would go.
Yeah.
Um, I loved the album. There's some Nile Rodgers in there.
Yeah.
Mixed Up World had that. I'm amazed because she did this during COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think the reason why that strikes me so much is because here we are. This has been a crappy year, and yet there's joy. There's still joy out there.
Yeah.
So you would think, if you watch the news, you would think that there's none left. Sorry, you may not have fun. There's none of that allowed. And I don't know. She kind of is saying, well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be sad about, but we're all still here.
Yeah.
We're still here. We better enjoy our lives. So I appreciated it very much. It was welcome.
Nice. And if you're listening at home, if you haven't followed her on Instagram or if you go to YouTube, all of the kitchen disco parties are up. It is absolutely fantastic to watch her at home. There's so many live streams available right now. There's so much,
Yes.
lockdown content. Her and the Tim's Twitter listening parties are the two things I've tried to make as much time for as possible because they really bring a lot of joy to music fans. And if you're one of those music fans who has to know everything and get down in every little dark corner of an artist, which is me, check out her band, The Audience, which was an up and coming English band. They made some really sophisticated pop rock.
Mhm.
The EP is somewhat hard to find, but I actually found it on Discogs and ordered it. So I can't wait for it to arrive. But it kind of sets the stage for where she was headed. It's a little more rock sounding. So if that's your thing, check it out. But I think Sophie, much like Kylie, is just another diva that we need to appreciate as a pop star. And coincidentally, they both have had songs written for them by Kathy Dennis. So Kathy, of course, wrote "Can't Get You Out of My Head" by Kylie. Some of the songs she's worked with Sophie as well. So that's something I just learned on Tim's Twitter listening party.
Very
So,
good.
there you go. A day spent on Twitter sometimes pays off. Usually we have to choose one album. I think this is kind of hard, but if you had to take one with you,
Mhm.
which one are you choosing?
Songs from the kitchen for sure,
Yeah, me
without a
too.
doubt.
And no disrespect to Kylie, because obviously
No, none, no.
Sophie, this is kind of a greatest hits collection, as well as some new material. But um, just being able to find a new artist like this and find that many songs by them that didn't even know existed, and kind of
Yeah,
catching up late. But I think the same happened with me with Kylie as well. So um, thank you, Encores Club and Rhonda, for making us do the show, because I've discovered two new artists that
yeah.
have been around a while that maybe I just didn't fully appreciate or even know about with Sophie. So cheers to that. I feel like we're coming out of this episode with two new artists. We're going to be a lot more excited to go see in concert when we get out of lockdown.
For sure. Yeah, let's hope that soon, man. I'm done. This is
Ah,
hard.
well, as always, thank you everyone at home for watching our episode of Encore's Club. Hit subscribe in the YouTube window somewhere, and we'll keep coming with new content. We have one coming up. We're going to try a book review, actually.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I have not
Once you're
forgotten
done
that. I have
reading,
to read it.
which would be a little different. We're going to talk about the new romantic scene, which is very tied to the disco scene. So it would make sense for the next episode. And if you want to hear what our favorite albums of the year were, get ready, because we're going to work on an episode of that. I already was trying to pare down my list to the top five, and it's been such a good year for music. I'm going to struggle. So I'm going to have
I'm
five, and then
struggling.
I'm going to mention like 12 others.
I know that's what I'm worried about. Is I think I have my five, but there's a few others I'm like, oh, so I don't know. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for tuning in to the Encourse Club, and we will see you again soon. Take care.
Bye.